Welcome to the New Mom Talk podcast, your go-to podcast for evidence-based answers to your burning questions about parenting. Join us as we dive into commonly Googled topics and hear from experts and real moms. Let's navigate parenthood together, one question at a time. Hi, guys. So today we're going to talk about baby-led sleep, which is different from sleep training. So we're going to dive into a little bit about what this approach is, how you do it, and how it's different from sleep training, which right now some people are for it, some people are against it. So this is a great alternative option. So we have Taylor here to share all of her knowledge.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here, and I want to be completely honest with you guys. This is my first ever podcast, so if you hear me making some mistakes, just bear with me. First time for everything, right? I'm really excited to be here. I'm so happy, especially this one. It's just near and dear to my heart since I met you locally at a little birth workers get together. So it's really exciting for me. So my name's Taylor. I am a mom of two. So I have a son who's 3 and his name is Charlie. And then I have a daughter she's almost 1. Her name is Sunny. And they are kind of my inspirations for how I got into this whole field to begin with. It's definitely not something I ever imagined I would be doing. I am a baby-led sleep and well-being specialist, and we'll get into kind of what that means in a second. Basically, I work with families and young babies all the way up to toddlerhood with helping with sleep problems. And then I got into it because my son had a very difficult journey with sleep. He was a NICU baby, and we had just a lot of struggles with that. And so along my own journey of trying to figure out what is baby sleep, what's normal, what's not normal, why is this so hard for me? Why does it feel like it's just not going right? And why does it not kind of fit into the expectations that I had just based on society or movies or what people told me? That just kind of led me down this path of diving deeper and then eventually realizing I wanted to help other mothers and parents, but specifically mothers, help them figure out what in a roundabout way took me years to sort of learn.
I feel like, yeah, kids have a way of doing that because I never thought that I would be in this parenting space or this like space with supporting moms. It just wasn't something that called me
Right.
before I became a mom. And then I became a mom and I was like, oh my goodness, this space is awesome.
Yeah, and needed, right? We need the support and the information because there's so much out there. It's helpful to have it from another mother rather than these sources that sometimes we're like, well, do you actually know what I'm feeling? Because I feel like you don't understand me, whereas another mother does.
Yeah, and like you might have the credentials, but do you also have like the experience, not only the credentials to support it? With
Yes.
that, let's start off with what is baby-led sleep? And then if you could describe a little bit about how this is different from the typical sleep training methods that we might hear about.
Right. Yes, definitely. So, baby-led sleep, like the terminology of that little phrase, came from the woman who founded the certification course that I went through. Her name is Lauren, and she runs Isla Grace Sleep. She's one of my mentors. And like I said, she started the certification program. And when you graduate from that, you get the title, if you will, of baby-led sleep and well-being specialist. And I think that term helps differentiate what we do from sleep training. And we'll get into that. But if you just see like online on Instagram or wherever, social media in general, a lot of times you'll just see baby sleep consultant, which is extremely broad, very vague. There's really no way to know what that person does from just that one little title. And so the baby led sleep part of it helps to differentiate that just a bit, at least, between a traditional or classical sleep training method and what we do. And so what we do is very much based on the whole family, the whole picture of what's going on with sleep. So we're going to be looking at the developmental readiness of each baby. So how old are they? Are they going through a developmental leap? What can we realistically expect of them at this age? And what can we not realistically expect? And then we're also going to be looking at keeping that attachment bond with the mom and the baby or with the parent, the caregiver, whoever it may be, at the forefront of whatever changes that we're making, as well as if the mom and the baby are breastfeeding, as well as keeping that relationship in mind and keeping it optimized. Whereas sleep training may not necessarily keep all of those things in mind all of the time because it comes from a CBT, so a cognitive behavioral approach with how they're going to, for lack of a better word, sort of eliminate an unwanted behavior or extinguish an unwanted behavior. And that behavior might be night wakings or contact napping, whatever it may be. Those are kind of two big ones, obviously, in the sleep space. Whereas we would approach something like that with, it's not something we would just say, well, that's what babies do. So, like, suck it up kind of thing. Like, that's not what this approach is. It would be kind of giving a mom or a family the advice of why a baby may be seeking comfort in the middle of the night, why they may be seeking a contact nap, and things like that, and sort of dealing with it from the whole perspective rather than just, this is the behavior we don't want, so let's do that. And so I think the approach is a little bit gentler in that respect. And then if you're someone who's wanting to be able to respond at night or able to respond during naps, it gives you that freedom without some of the messaging that you need to not do that in order to get good sleep. So, one thing I will say though about the terminology baby led sleep is it kind of insinuates that the changes that you're going to be making are only up to your baby, right? And like you have no control over what you're doing. Whereas a lot of the changes that we make are parent led. So we might have someone come to us and they're working on getting their baby to sleep in the crib versus on them because let's say they need to go back to work, right? Like that is a very necessary and valid change that we all kind of deal with at some point with our young babies. And so some of the advice we might offer them is a way to sort of transition their baby from a contact nap to an independent nap over the course of many weeks or doing it nice and slowly. And then also giving them the gentle advice that if their baby is, maybe they have to go back to work at like 10 weeks, like I had to go back at 10 weeks. My baby was not sleeping independently. And so I was just very upfront with caregivers, like you're going to need to hold my baby when they're sleeping type thing. And so kind of the understanding of when that baby is going to be ready for something may not be in line with what we need them to do. And sometimes there's no way to force them to do it. And I think there's just a more realistic approach that we can give parents that may not be what they want to hear all of the time, but kind of giving them something that is, this is normal infant behavior and you're not doing anything wrong by supporting your child to sleep. And they're not doing anything wrong by needing that support to sleep. So kind of giving it a little more of a whole picture from the standpoint of sleep and why things are happening when we're making changes to the schedule or to the routine or what. It's a long-winded answer.
No, but I feel like you are able to describe like the differences between how this is more of a different approach versus a typical sleep training program, like the popular programs that you hear about.
Right, right. And I do always want to clarify, like, this is such a divisive topic around between families and between other moms. Like, it just is very, I think it's very emotional and it can get very heated because none of us want to feel like we're doing the wrong thing or making the wrong choice. And so I think this is just another option for families, and we all just need to find what works best for us and do that. And so I think my biggest, again, like I said, kind of inspiration into getting into this field in this kind of different side of it was because all of the messaging that I ever got from family members or from like my pediatrician was, well, you better not do that or else XYZ bad thing's going to happen, or you better not do that or it's a bad habit. It's a crutch. You're going to have to then do this and this later and it's going to be horrible. And I just heard so much negativity surrounding like holding my baby when they were crying at night. And I just felt like, well, this can't be right. Like, it's not wrong maybe for some people, but like, this doesn't feel right to me. Like, why doesn't it feel right? Like, what is going on here? And why am I feeling kind of yucky about this messaging? And what is an alternative? And that's kind of how I got here. And so I think it's good for some people. Some people, they love the traditional route and that works for them, that works for their family, and that's what they need. And it just wasn't that for me. And I didn't know where to look for something different. So I'm hoping to kind of give moms that perspective if that's what feels like in their heart when they're wanting to do what they want to do, that they have someone there telling them, yes, this is fine. This is okay too. Like you're not doing anything wrong.
And every baby is different, right? Like we did sleep train, we used the Ferber method, and that
Mm-hmm.
worked just fine for us.
Right.
Um, However, my son was also sleeping through the night at 2 months and he was
Right.
in his crib at 2 months. So very different dynamic
Approach.
than, maybe if he had been in his bassinet for 6 months or whatever it may be. But he also didn't like the bassinet. So
Right.
uh, we were, we didn't really have an option, which was
Right.
great for us. It worked out.
Yeah.
So, so I think, yeah, you need to do what's best for you. And it drives me crazy when people tell you what you need to do
Right.
rather than state this is what worked for us and kind of give you an alternative option or idea to
Yeah.
consider.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you're tired with sleep specifically, like your emotions are high, everything feels intense, everything feels like crying or anger or whatever it is. Like it's not good to be sleep deprived and like making decisions and like what do I do? So it is, I get why it's heated and I get why it's such a thing because no one's their best when they're feeling exhausted and not knowing what to do because you're just like in your primal brain and it's just yeah, it's really hard.
And I feel like that's the case, that first year of a baby's life, right? They're constantly going through the sleep regressions. So therefore, you don't ever really get to sleep or get caught up on sleep, or you might, and then it's just a teaser. And so
Yep.
you're like desperate for answers and support and anyway. And so if this is an option that works for you that you would feel best looking into, that's great. If you want to do sleep training, there are so many programs out there. So it's definitely
Right.
like, what do you feel most comfortable with?
Exactly.
So,
My son was definitely a lot like worse. I don't like to say like worse, like he was bad or anything, but he struggled to sleep. And my daughter's been a little bit easier. And sometimes some babies just sleep well. Like whatever you do, they just did it, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like I didn't have to. They just did it. And some
yeah.
babies just aren't that way, and there's no way to know what you're gonna get.
I mean,
um,
I'm a great sleeper and my husband cannot. He doesn't understand how I can like hit the pillow and I'm out.
right, exactly. And that's another thing that I love to sort of do some education on with my clients, which a lot of what I do, if I'm honest, is education. Like truly, think of you and your husband, for example. Like adults have different ways that they sleep, good, bad. Takes them a long time to fall asleep, but then they stay asleep, or they fall asleep right away, but then they wake up through the night. Like babies are similar. And so I feel like it's helpful to have an approach that's going to accept like your baby's temperament or their personality or kind of at least understand that rather than just, well, your baby is 4 months, they should be doing XYZ when they're their own little person. So they might not.
Yeah.
Introducing the Secret Mom Hacks podcast. Hosted by me, Krista Dykes, this show is for first time moms who wish to model the best version of themselves for the tiny humans looking up to us. From self care and worthiness to navigating unique parenting obstacles, expect new weekly episodes that are honest and relatable no matter how old your child is. Subscribe to Secret Mom Hacks wherever you listen to podcasts and leave every episode feeling inspired and hopeful, knowing you are not on this mom journey alone.
Well, obviously the goal here with any sleep program is to get the baby to sleep.
Yes.
But I want to talk a little bit more about the goals specifically with the baby-led sleep since you're kind of taking on a different approach
Yeah.
with how you're working with moms and what you're taking in from the babies.
I think a big difference too, right? Like when someone's coming looking for sleep support, whether it's sleep training or whether it's with someone like me, they're not coming to us like, hey, my baby sleeps through the night and they nap really well. Yay for me. Like they're not, those aren't my clients because they're not seeking me out. They're doing fine. So obviously, someone who's coming to me is going to be having a sleep problem. And so usually what I'm going to ask them is like, what is your goal or your biggest challenge right now with sleep? And let's say they are having split nights. So that would be like the baby is up, maybe they sleep from like 7:30 or 8 to like 1, but then they're awake from 1 to 4 in the morning. Like that is not normal, right? Like that is not sustainable. Nobody can really thrive off of that schedule. I'm not saying the baby per se because there's obviously something going on, but a parent can't just be up for 3 hours in the middle of the night every night and have that be, oh, this is just the norm, this is my baby, like let's just deal with it. Like no. And that's not what I'm there to tell them, that they just need to kind of deal with it. So something like split nights we would approach by looking at their daytime sleep. So looking at nap times, looking at bedtime, looking at the morning wake time, and usually the split night, unless there's something big going on, like maybe they just traveled abroad and they're all messed up with jet lag, or maybe they're sick or they're teething, like all of those things you would kind of take out of the picture first and make sure that none of that is going on. And then you would address, oh, my baby's taking a 3.5 hour nap and they wake up at 4 p.m. Like, okay, that's not working. And so what we would do is kind of address that huge long nap over the course of a few days by changing it, by waking them up a little bit earlier each day, like 15 minutes maybe every 2 days, and backing it up like that, or adjusting bedtime or morning wake if that's the issue. But looking at the daytime and making sure that it's appropriate for their activity level, for the age of the baby, all of that stuff. And that's where you'll see some crossover with a traditional like sleep training program. You're going to be doing looking sometimes at wake windows, looking sometimes at what's going on with sleep and correlating that with how old they are, daytime sleep, I mean, to address a night waking problem. And then kind of making sure to ruling out any sort of red flags if there's like, other than sickness, of course, but if there's like a breathing issue, or maybe they have some sort of like tongue tie going on, is there a feeding issue? And kind of ruling out a lot of like medical stuff too, and then making appropriate referrals out if it's something that we can't fix, right? I recently had a client who, her son, he was 18 months and he had enlarged tonsils, enlarged adenoids. So he had to get those removed because he was snoring his whole life. And so the snoring was waking him up, and they were having all these problems for months and months and months. But it turns out it was something, anatomical, structural, obstructing his breathing. So sometimes it's that, and it's really just a deep dive into what is the issue and how do we fix it. And we can definitely address certain goals like that are fixable.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the benefits
Yeah.
with this approach.
So I think namely it would be just giving a mom or a parent something that fits better or is more in line with their parenting style or the way that they envision themselves supporting their child, and gives them a different alternative to the traditional routes that you might get from, from a doctor or from an older parent. That's the main benefit I definitely experienced, because it's still hard. It's still sleep. It's still, or lack of sleep, I should say. Um, so it's still difficult. And that's just the main benefit, I think, is just feeling like it is in line or in tune with what you're wanting to be doing and how you want to show up and respond for your child, and not feeling like you're forced to do something for the good of your baby or for the good of yourself that you don't believe in.
Yeah, well, and ultimately the goal is everyone gets sleep.
Yeah,
But that is true, because I think that you hear about different approaches and you're like, well, I can't deal with like the crying, or let my baby just cry it out, or
right.
whatever methods are out there. For us, the Ferber method worked because there really wasn't any crying. However, if I had to listen to my son cry for 10 plus minutes, that would not work. It would not work.
Right. And that's another thing too that I like really like to stress is some babies, like it sounds like your son, like is he pretty chill in general? Like his temperament is kind of
Oh yeah,
calm.
he's so mellow.
Yeah.
It, yeah, he's not
Yeah.
a kid that I need to worry about like running after. If I tell him to stop, he typically does stop and then he'll turn
Right.
around. So
Right.
yeah.
So yeah, so that's the kind of the setup where I feel like if like that makes sense to me, like on every level that worked, right? Whereas my son, he's 3, oh my God, if I tell him to stop, are you kidding? No, he doesn't stop. Like I'm chasing him. Like I love him so much, but he is a wild man. So now when I look back, now that I know him, like I know him, and I look back on our journey, A, about being a preemie, and B, about sleep, it totally makes sense that those type of things didn't work for him, because that's just not in his DNA. It just doesn't work.
I
Um,
know you see some kids with like the backpack leashes, and you're like,
yes,
yeah, some
right,
kids need that. Like,
right. Yeah, he's crazy. So yeah, that is definitely a huge benefit too, is just finding something that'll work with who your kid is at their core. Like who are they? What do they need? And then trying to provide that for them in the best way that you can.
now let's talk about maybe some downsides to
Yes.
this sleep approach.
Yes, I have been thinking about that, because this one's interesting, right? This is what I did for my kids and it's something that I believe in. So I don't think there's a downside per se as far as negative impacts on your child or negative impacts on yourself. But I will say It is extremely difficult to remain calm and regulated, and I'll say it, you're not always going to be happy as far as in the middle of the night. If your kid's awake, you want to respond to them, you want to go help them, and you know that's what you want to do. It's still hard to walk down the hall sometimes like, God, I just really want to be asleep. And it sucks sometimes. And so it's this approach really does require you to look internally and see, like, why am I triggered by this? Why can't I stay calm? Why am I feeling unregulated? Why all of these things? So there's a lot of looking inward, there's a lot of analyzing your own emotions and then controlling your own emotions in order to make the choices that you want to make and the things that you want to do for your kid. And it's really hard sometimes. And so I think that's not a drawback per se. It's great to learn more about yourself, but sometimes you don't want to, and you're just like, this is really fucking hard, sorry.
I just want sleep. That's all.
Yeah. So it does, it can be a really challenging approach in that sense, because it requires, I think, more of you than it does of your child. They're just happy for the cuddles, but sometimes you're just like at your wit's end, and so it's hard. It's definitely something that I struggled with my son and with my daughter too, is just being that calm, regulated center for them. It's super hard. Super
And
hard.
I think it's like when you're in it seems like there's no end in sight, but
Yes.
like it's really just that 1 year, that first year
Right.
where the struggles occur, right? Because they're
Hmm.
constantly going through so many different regressions
Right.
and you're not really getting sleep. And then if you're working or if you have another child to tend to, like you're drained.
Yeah. 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 So I think this type of sleep approach is a part of responsive parenting or gentle parenting. And sometimes that whole realm gets a bad rap, as if it's like, oh, you're weak or you're permissive or you're just saying yes or you're giving in. When really, in my opinion, it's the opposite, because it's much easier to snap and yell, which I do more often than I would like to admit. It's much harder to stay calm and chill, much easier to just snap. And I think that's definitely one of the hardest parts of this style, especially when you're tired, middle of the night, no one's their best self.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. You're woken up from this nap that you're in the middle of.
Right.
I
Yeah,
call them
nap
naps.
for
Yeah,
sure.
because you don't sleep your first year, you're napping. You made such a valid point in the gentle parenting. I do feel like it's almost an easier way to also connect with your child if you are taking that approach.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Obviously, right?
Yeah. So any other tips, suggestions, or recommendations?
There's so much, and it's hard to like whittle it all down into one little podcast, right? There are some things I just wanted to remind parents or moms, if they're feeling like some of the messaging that they're getting is making them feel more anxiety or feel more stress, is just kind of a gentle reminder that if you're holding your baby and you're loving it, if you're co-sleeping with your baby, if you're loving it and you're feeling like you're doing it safely, if you are feeding your baby to sleep, rocking them to sleep, whatever it may be, and you're happy and they're happy, keep doing it. I promise they're not going to be in your bed till they're 18. It's not a crutch. It's not bad. They're not going to have horrible sleep problems because you didn't teach them the right thing at the right time. Just rest in the fact that you feel good about it. Rest in the fact that they're happy snuggling with you, and just know that it's not a mistake. If you're happy, it's right.
I always say it's all just a stage. It's temporary. So like
Mm-hmm.
this stage is just during this time. And then once they learn to sleep independently, like you're gonna miss those contact naps.
And I will attest to this, because, like I said, my son didn't sleep through independently until he was 2.5. Now he's almost 3.5. And I'm doing the same stuff with my daughter. And I'm like, I look at him sleeping on the monitor and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I miss those snuggles. And I never thought I would say that. And now I look at him and I'm just like, he's so big and he doesn't cuddle with me anymore. Like it does, you do get to that point, like however long or short away it feels like it is,
Hmm.
it happens. And then they're just older and they're big and they have big boy shoes and running
I
away from
know.
you. So yeah.
I know. I'm not looking forward to like that middle school stage where
Oh
he's
my,
too cool for me.
right. It won't kiss you anymore. Oh,
I'm like, I'm gonna have to go back to teaching and be a teacher at his school. And
right. Just like lurking in the back. Oh, how are you doing, sweetie? Mom, go away.
yeah. It's the only way I can get him to spend time with me at a room.
Oh gosh,
I
we're all
hope
gonna turn
not.
into those moms, right?
Oh gosh, I hope I hope he always wants to hang out with me and loves being with me because right now he's in the stage where he'll be like, "Mama, play," and
Yep,
just makes my heart smile. Like,
I know. Me too. I'm with you.
well, thank you so much. I'm going to have all of your info linked in the show notes.
Awesome.
So if anyone wants to contact you or reach out to you, they can through the show notes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for our next episode. You can find us on Instagram for more updates and tips. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and give us a review if you like us.